Welcome back to New England Living. Up next, a local chef with an international influence. Chef Kate Smith fires up the grill for her signature paella dish made easy. After completing her undergraduate degree at Boston University, Chef Kate Smith spent time working at some of the Northeast's most renowned kitchens. Now, alongside her husband, she runs Thistle and Leek in Newton Center, a modern gastropub with a menu of local, seasonally driven small plates inspired by her travels through Europe. We're here at the Clark Sub-Zero and Wolf showroom, and I am joined by Chef Kate Smith of the restaurant Thistle and Leek. And Kate, you are not making your average dogs and burgers for us today on the grill. You are making something a little more elevated. What are you cooking for us?
We are cooking paella. It's one of my favorites to grill. It's a really quick cleanup, one pan. It's always impressive.
And this may seem like an intimidating dish to make at home, but you promise us this is something easy to make?
Once you learn the technique, anyone can do this.
Okay, we're liking the sound of that. What's the first step of this dish?
Okay, the first thing we're gonna do is get the chicken wings on the grill to start getting that nice char. That's gonna add a lot of flavor. That's the sound we wanna hear. Okay, I'm adding olive oil to the pan. I've got it on high heat. We want a nice hot oil to start. And then Spanish chorizo. Spanish chorizo is cured more like a salami than Mexican chorizo, which is a fresh sausage that's a little more crumbly. There's a real depth of flavor here.
About how long is the chicken staying on the grill for?
We're not trying to cook it fully, we're just trying to get a nice char on the outside. You want to make sure the grill is nice and hot. That's going to be the biggest thing to prevent things from sticking. Once you get it hot enough, turn it down to where you need it to cook the meat fully, and that solves most grill problems. For paella, it's the same. We get the grill nice and hot and we'll turn it down later. So I can see now the olive oil is hot. The oil is starting to come out of the chorizo, and that's what you want. I'm also keeping an eye to make sure it doesn't start smoking too much. Every step of this, we're building flavor.
Now, a lot of what you do is seasonally driven. So with these ingredients, how are you kind of rotating them with the seasons?
It's really in the vegetables that go on. Use whatever vegetables you have around. In this case, I'm using peas and artichokes, which are in season right now. Tomatoes, radishes, something like that you can put on raw. Otherwise, cook your vegetables ahead of time, but the sky is the limit. Any vegetable can go in this. At this point, the chorizo's rendered out. I'm adding the rice. I'm gonna give it a good stir. Just make sure the rice is nice and coated with that oil. Say about a quarter to a half teaspoon of saffron. Stir that all up. And then I'm adding the sofrito. Sofrito is a mixture of onion, garlic, carrot, tomato. That's the good sound right there. Pimenton, and a little olive oil. I'm stirring this, making sure everything's incorporated. And then I'm adding the chicken stock. I've already warmed this up. You want the stock to be hot going in. And this is the last time you will stir this. Stirring will change the paella. You don't want to stir. I'm giving this a good shake to just make sure that the ingredients are evenly distributed. Bring it up to a boil, and then we'll turn the heat down once it's up. These chicken wings are nicely charred. I'm adding them into the paella and tucking them into the stock and the rice. They're effectively braised in the paella. I'm going to arrange the mussels, also tucking them in to the paella. These mussels will also release their juice as they're cooking and add to the flavor. You want to just see that nice simmer. I'm not going to stir, but I'm gently feeling the bottom to see if it's sticky yet. And once it's sticky, you know that crust is starting to form.
Okay, well, while that's cooking, I want to find out a little bit more about your background, because you do not have the traditional route to becoming a chef. You actually went to BU, but you studied something completely different. So how did you end up here?
Yeah, so I studied international relations and minored in Spanish. I ended up spending my last semester abroad in Madrid, which is where I first fell in love with Spanish food and Spanish cooking. And I came back home and just realized that I wanted to work in restaurants, I wanted to cook.
Growing up in New England, going to school here, working at a number of restaurants here, at the same time studying in Europe, how are you kind of merging those two influences in what you do now?
My husband and I have traveled extensively through Europe. I've lived in Europe, and every place has its terroir. It's so influenced by the place around it. And in New England, we have such amazing terroir. We have the seafood, the meat, the dairy, the vegetables. We have such an abundance of ingredients here to work with that we try to use those traditional European cooking traditions and incorporate all of the amazing bounty that New England has.
What do you love about paella so much?
It's so flavorful. It's fun to make. You kind of build the flavor in layers. It's an amazing way to use up whatever your favorite foods are or whatever you have laying around. It's really versatile. You can make it as fancy or as quick as you like. Without a huge amount of work, everyone is impressed when you put a paella in front of them.
What clues do we look for when we're finding out if it's ready?
So I've tasted the rice. The rice is done. The socarrat, that nice crunchy layer at the bottom, is formed. We're ready to go.
That's the answer I was hoping for. Let's get in there. And ideally, this should be resting for how long?
We're gonna let this rest about 5 minutes. It just lets that socarrat release from the bottom, and we wanna make sure we don't burn ourselves either.
This is a stunning looking dish. As far as garnishes go, what do you like to put on top?
Always olive oil. I have a delicious Spanish olive oil. I'm just drizzling over the top. Parsley. I put parsley on everything, but it adds a nice brightness that's a contrast to all of the rich flavors we've just added. And then some scallion. The green part adds a nice freshness. The white part adds just a tiny bit of spice. And then finally, I'm gonna arrange some lemons. You really want that bright hit of acid in there.
I almost hate to dig into something that looks so beautiful, but this is garnished and we're ready to go.
We're ready to go. So I'll serve you up a little bit of everything.
And you can really see that crunch on the rice that you were talking about.
Oh yeah, you wanna scrape the bottom and make sure you get all that nice socarrat on each plate.
You can really see how the ingredients, and you can taste how the ingredients all come together. This is delicious. And for more food like this, make sure you visit Kate at Thistle and Leek. And for more cooking segments, check out our website, newenglandliving.tv. Thank you so much. This is amazing.
Thank you for having me.
Wow.